Okay, welcome to our final set of tutorials. We're currently in lesson 8, health and scoring. I'm not sure how many tutorial videos I've made, but that's certainly where we'll be up to with my GitHub. In this lesson, we're going to have a look at creating health and scoring in our game. So I think the first thing we're going to do is let's just create a variable for the score in the game itself. So to do that, I'm just going to, there is a variable here. You'll see I had it disguised by a semicolon. It's on the same line. But self.score does exist in my game. And that means that my game controller has that variable. And we want to make it so that when we start the game, we're going to set that score to equal 0. You'll notice I've turned music off just for now. All right. We want to make it so the game can update the score. So if we ever tell our game that the score needs to be updated, we can. So I've created a small little function here called update score. I could have actually not had to worry about using the function, but sometimes it's nice to be able to use a function. And you can see that the function itself is going to update my score text at the same time. So as I increase the score in my game, I'm going to change the text on the left-hand side to reflect that current score. Okay, so that's in the game file. Let's go have a look at our snowman. For our snowman, we want to make it so that if the snowman was hit by a snowball, we're going to increase the score. So where I've got here, I'm going to say globals.game.update score. Now I've got update score by 1. I might just make it 5 because it makes it more exciting. I'm also going to make it so that my snowman is actually going to have some hit points. So what I'm going to do is that each snowman has a maximum of 100 hit points. So maximum HP of 100. And I'm going to make it so that that's what its initial health is. Its initial health is going to be 100. I want to make it so that if the snowman has been hit by a snowball, I'm going to update the score of the game, but I'm also going to update the hit points of the snowman. So I'm going to call a function or create a function that will update its hit points. And this is my function here. Define update hit points. I'm going to add the value on. And for the moment, I'm going to leave that. We'll talk about some other things later on. But actually, better yet, no, we'll do a little bit here. So what I'm going to do is if the hit points becomes less than 0, and it's going to subtract, I think I said to subtract 30 each time. If it's less than 0, I am going to remove the enemy from the game. So now I'm actually going to destroy the snowman. So the snowman will be destroyed. I'm going to remove it from the global enemy list. And I'm going to put this in our try and accept, because as I said, sometimes when it comes to our collisions, we need to be very careful that we don't refer to something that no longer exists. So I'm going to put it inside a try block. Just basically try the code, and if there is a major error, just be ready for it. Right, and the other thing, you can see it's highlighting there. I've just got to put that under the same indent. All right, so now I should be able to hit the snowman 5 times and the snowman should die. I should be getting health each time it happens. I think we don't need to worry about health or scoring for the snowball itself. The player we will, but for the moment, I'm going to play my game and let's just make sure that our score is incrementing and that the snowman is dying after, well, it should be 4 hits. If it's losing 30 each go and it's actually got 100, it'll probably be about 4 hits before a snowman dies. By the way, I haven't mentioned it, but the frame rate of your game is up in the top right-hand corner. for whatever reason, my frame rate is quite low when this game starts. It's dropping to 15 at the moment, which is a bit of a worry. So it could be the number of entities I've got. It could be the number of programs I have running on my computer at the moment. Normally it's up around about 30, so I'm not quite sure my frame rate is so low. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's definitely killing the snowman up to 4, and I can see my score in the top left-hand corner is being updated. So at the moment, my game's pretty easy. I think if I want to make my game a bit harder, I need to make the snowman a bit quicker. So I might do that as well. So under my snowman, I'm just going to increase their speed to 4. And I just want to make sure that when they're avoiding things, it's going to be the speed of 4 as well. All right, so I've just made my snowman a bit quicker. All right, so we've got that working. Let's worry about a health bar now. So as I said, any entity in Ursina can contain another entity, and the position of that entity is relative to itself. So in this case here, I'm going to create a health bar, and you can see that this entity is going to, because I want it inside another entity, I'm going to set its parent. So the health bar is an entity, a completely new entity, but I'm going to set the parent to equal this snowman. So basically the snowman is the parent of the health bar. Then I set its height, or its Y position, in respect to, so if you create an entity inside another entity, its position is relative to that entity itself. So all I'm doing is I'm actually updating its Y position, although I realize now I'm doing that anyway, so I'm not quite sure why I've got Y there. I think I might actually just delete it. I don't think there's any need for it because I'm updating the position over here. You can see I've got the scale. My snowman is actually, my health bar I want to make quite small. So I'm going to make it quite small. It's going to be red, it's a cube, and I've put the position at 4 units above the origin of my snowman. Right, so the health bar is there. When I get hit, I'm actually going to change the size of that health bar. So update, under my update health function, I'm going to scale the health bar based on what its normal scale is, and then based on a fraction of its health. So I'm actually, to be honest, I think I got that code from the first person shooter sample code, so I'm not totally clear on what it does. But I am going to set its alpha to 1, so it's seen. And then here in my frame, I'm going to make it so that once you've hit it, eventually the health bar's alpha is going to go back to 0, which means it's disappeared. So what it means is when I hit the snowman, you'll see the health bar momentarily, and then the alpha of that health bar entity is going to go back to 0, in which case it's going to be invisible. All right, so that's my snowman's health bar. I'm going to create a health bar for the player as well. So in the player, I'm going to again create a health bar entity, but this time I'm going to create 2 entities, one being the health bar's background and the other one being the health bar itself. So I'm creating 2 entities, and the interesting thing is the model is quad, so probably I should have had that in Snowman as well if it's not. Yeah, it should actually be a quad, but anyway. The quad is simply a square on the screen, and I'm going to set its, the background is going to be red and the health bar is going to be green. I've set its position. Again, the position is relative to, I've set the parent to being the camera of my Ursina environment. So rather than actually putting the health bar inside my player, I've put the health bar inside the camera's UI, which means its position is relative to the camera's overall positioning in my world. I'm also going to set my health to equal 100. Right, and then I'm going to make it so that when I'm hit, I'm going to check firstly that my health is greater than 0. I'm going to subtract 20 from my health. I'm going to say if the health is less than or equal to 0, I'm going to disable my health bar. I'm going to disable my player, which makes my player invisible. I am going to set the health bar scale to basically almost equal 0. And I'm going to call globals.game endgame. So I'm not destroying my player here. I'm actually going to destroy my player inside the endgame function of my game. And finally, I'm just going to change, if the health is greater than 0, I'm going to change the scale of my health bar so that it looks nice. And that should be there, I believe. Right. Notice that with my player controller, just a quick note here, I did have this code here in terms of creating a snowball that is directly aimed for a snowman. So if you wanted to do that as a helper, you can. It's just using ray casting and basically determining whether the snowball goes directly for the snowman, but it's not necessary. But I've got a little note here for myself. With the player controller contains a whole lot of stuff to do with collisions. One of the reasons why I haven't put collision code inside my player is because the player controller object is already handling most of that. So if you play around with the collisions of the player itself, you could actually make mistakes or make bugs inside your player controller. So I'd be very hesitant towards doing that. But one of the things you might like to do is create yourself an entity of like coins or wands or whatever, so the player can collect certain items. And I put the collisions for that inside the items themselves. Right, so I'm going to go back to my game and I'm going to press play. If everything's working, I should find that the score is updating and the health of my snowmans is appearing and the health of my player is appearing. So if everything's working. Okay, so you can see in the top right of my top of my screen, I've got a health bar. If I run into a snowman, you can see that my health bar just took a hit, and then I actually died. I press space to restart, and it restarts. Now this time I'm going to shoot my snowman. You can see that the snowman dies after 4 hits. The health bar appears momentarily. And then the snowman dies. Right, so that's pretty much the conclusion of my game. There's so much that could be done here. What I would say in that top right hand corner, I am slightly worried about my frame rate. So what I need to do is work out why my frame rate is so high at the moment. You also notice that the collision boxes of my snowman are appearing at the moment. That's because I'm still in debug mode when it came to collisions. So if I go back to my snowman, when I did the collision on my snowman, I said debug is equal to true. All I need to do is set that to equal false. And that's it. That's the game completed as is. I mean, it's not a very good game. It could be improved in so many different ways. Certainly the gameplay isn't very good. But I'll leave that up to you to determine how to make a better game. I just hope that through these series of tutorials, you've learnt a bit more about using Ursina. I think Ursina is a lot of fun. I like the fact I'm just using code and I'm not having to use a proper game development environment. And I think it's better, as I'm a teacher, I think this is better for my students to learn because they learn better coding practices. Whereas if you use a big game development environment, oftentimes the kids don't see the code or fully understand the code. And we're using Python a lot. So I think simply by using Ursina, my students' Python skills are going to become exponentially good. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay, that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. All right, thank you very much. I'll see you later.